Hey, deserving listeners, Ed on 90 Day. Let's watch.
When Ed was asking me what was going on, I didn't want to open up about it, but he kept pushing for it, and that bothers me. It really does bother me. So I just shut him out, didn't listen to him anymore, and he really kept pushing it to the point where I went online, bought a ticket to go home because of how he was acting at night.
Right, that was my suspicion. Maybe we'll get some more specifics here. That Ed's story is that, look, I was just asking her what was going on. I was just innocently asking her. I just really wanted to know. But from Liz's perspective, he was pushing her. What does that mean? Does that mean just really like desperate, or is it abusive? What's going on? Maybe we'll find out.
And can we talk about Vegas?
Vegas is very hard for me to talk about.
Okay.
Right. I don't know, but I would suspect, given what we've seen from Liz and given what would seem understandable, is that this conversation is going to be kind of hard for her because the whole basis of the conflict was that Liz is in conflict with his daughter. And it sounds like from Liz's description, who knows, it's just her story, that Ed's daughter was being kind of on the aggressive, abusive side with her in a bullying kind of style. Who knows, if Tiffany were here, maybe she would present some other side of the story that would be convincing. But we did see Tiffany in the tell-all with Rose exhibit similar, I don't know the best word for it, but bullying or aggressive or harsh, maybe harsh is a good word for it, harsh language and tone towards Rose from Tiffany. Who knows? We're not there. We're not these people. Maybe it's justified. But we might be able to imagine what Tiffany was doing to Liz at the club. And for Liz right now, she has to bring up the whole basis of this conflict as her, it's the daughter of her boyfriend. It's Ed's daughter. And so I think Liz wants to preserve the relationship with Ed. Who knows? And how do you enter into a conversation about that without it getting really weird? Because it would be triangulating Ed into the conflict between Tiffany and Liz. And that's a difficult position to put Ed into. And I'm guessing Liz doesn't want to put him there. I don't know. Let's watch.
I talk too much. So when I get upset, I don't use this, I use this. And what you do is you pull back. And because you shut down, it made me feel like I thought you were mad at me, but I couldn't shut up. I couldn't let it go.
Hallelujah. This is great, actually. For Ed to conceptualize this, I think, is wonderful. He's not blaming her. He's saying, I have a problem that when I get anxious, I start talking a lot. That seems reasonable, and that's a common defense mechanism. And he's admitting his vulnerability. That is great. And then he says, and you tend to kind of shut down a little bit, which causes me more anxiety, which causes me to talk more, which probably causes you to shut down a little bit more. 2 thumbs up to that conceptualization. It's a very helpful, non-blaming, systemic conceptualization that I'm guessing might help.
And I paid the price. Like, when you left, I actually had a panic attack.
Yeah, I don't doubt that he did have an anxiety attack. I think he is quite vulnerable underneath the facades that he actually will put up. So that's real, and that's okay. It seems like he might be kind of using it as a shaming or guilting tool right now. I don't know. He could have said something a little differently there, like, so I get why you left, but I just have to say it really hurt me, and I had a panic attack. It's not your fault. Now I'm guessing Liz feels shamed. I think we might be getting into some of Liz's issues at this point, maybe her vulnerabilities. Let's see what she says right now. I'm guessing she feels really ashamed of herself for something. I don't know. Or she's remembering the verbal abuse that maybe happened from him. I don't know. Let's watch. Hey, deserving listeners. As y'all know, I am constantly recommending that people go to therapy. We all need therapy from time to time. Well, one of the options available that is definitely worth checking out is BetterHelp. If you're looking for a therapist, I would give it a try by going to betterhelp.com/Kirk. Make sure you use the promo code Kirk because you get 10% off your first month, and it really helps us out. As you watch these videos, I know many of you have been motivated to find your own therapist, which is great because you deserve it. And I know also that it can be hard to find a good fit, find the right one for you. Well, one of the options available in terms of your shopping is to go to betterhelp.com/Kirk. I've been told you can start communicating with your therapist in under 24 hours. You can message your counselor at any time. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. I've also been told that it's often less expensive than in-person therapy, and you should know that this service is available to clients worldwide. So go to betterhelp.com/Kirk to get 10% off your first month today.
Expect this? My defense mechanism is shutting down, and I want to be left alone. I would hope that he would understand that, but he's not really listening to how I feel. And that's definitely hard.
So I use the show as a jumping off point to talk about other issues. And it is very common for couples to, when they're in conflict and they're triggering each other's attachment issues, that one will pursue and one will distance. And in this instance, we saw Ed was pursuing with verbal. So they were both feeling anxiety about the relationship, maybe particularly Ed. And his response is to lean in and to say, tell me what's going on. Probably not in a functional way, but the gist of the effort is reassure me that you love me. Are we on the same page? Do you hate me? But they won't say it because that actually would be functional if they said it that way, because it might actually provoke a response that will soothe them. What the pursuer will say is like, what's going on? How come you won't tell me? I don't understand why you're so angry. Like all the attacks and the control and the invasiveness. It's a desperation. And then the other person will, at the very same time, distance and shut down and actually get emotional distance, verbal distance, and physical distance. And both things happen at the same time. So as the distancer moves away, the pursuer moves in. And as the pursuer moves in, the distancer moves away because they trigger each other. As the distancer is distancing, it scares the pursuer. As the pursuer is invading, it hurts and scares or it overwhelms, maybe is a better term, the distancer. And to help people like this, the very first thing I do is I tell the pursuer, you have to let the distancer distance. It's only temporary. You have to learn how to self-soothe. You have to learn how to turn to someone else, like a friend. You have to learn how to regulate your emotions. You can't, especially because of the way you pursue. If you pursued like, hey, honey, I'm going to let you distance for sure. You can have that space, but just can you please reassure me that you don't hate me and that we're still in a relationship, because that will help me. If you did that as a pursuing, then that might work out. But again, that's not how people who pursue usually pursue. So, and it is on the borderline, if not well beyond the borderline, of abusive behavior. If I know couples where one person will actually prevent someone from leaving the room because the distancer is like, I got to get out of here. I got to take a walk around the block. And the pursuer will say, no, we got to talk about this. And they'll actually prevent them from leaving the room. Not okay. That's just not okay. It's basically criminal imprisonment on some level. But it also greatly increases the likelihood of physical violence happening, because the distancer actually has the right to push you out of the way of the door. If you're barring someone's ability to leave a room, not always, there's nuances legally, but there are many instances where it would be legally and ethically okay for the pursuer or for the distancer to be like, get out of the way, I'm getting out of this room. So you don't, so the first thing I do is I tell the pursuer, you cannot physically or emotionally prevent someone from distancing. You just can't do that. It's not okay. Then we go to the distancer and I say, it's okay for that you need to take a break, but the best thing you can do is as you are leaving, you say, honey, I just need about an hour. I'm just going to take a walk. I'm just going to take a drive. I will be back. If I'm still overwhelmed, I will leave for another hour. But I love you. I want to be with you. I just need a break for a second. So, because that's not usually the way the distancer will distance. Usually they're just like, I'm out of here, because it's a passive aggression. It is, I am so hurt and so scared right now because of what you've been doing. And I have no way of communicating that because I've never learned or I don't trust that anyone will hear it, or I don't have the self-esteem to say it or something. So the only way I know how to communicate that I'm upset at you and hope that you will actually change that behavior is if I hurt you by distancing. The distancer usually knows, at least subconsciously, that by abandoning and running away, that it will hurt the other person. Like, screw you, I'm out of here. And the subconscious, maybe in the conscious mind, is thinking, I hope that by me leaving, they will get the message that they should never do what they have been doing to me in the past, 25 minutes. So we don't want that to happen because that obviously is a very, very deep trauma to some pursuers. That's usually what they're trying to prevent, is that abandonment feeling. But their demands and their anger and their invasiveness actually promote abandonment, which is, protective identification, reenactments, and that sort of thing. So I will talk with the distancer about it's okay to take a break, but you want to limit it to the shortest amount of time possible, and you want to tell the person as you were leaving. And then I tell the pursuer, if your partner says they're going to leave for half an hour, you have to let them go, and you have to learn how to self-soothe. And or the pursuer could say, as the spouse is leaving the room, the pursuer could say, hey, you're free to go, of course, but can you tell me how long it's going to be, because that will really help me out. Or before you go, can you just say that you love me and can I have a hug? And then you can go. Something like that, because what often will happen is the distancer will leave, and the pursuer is just stewing in the terror of the abandonment. And then the feelings get worse, the emotions get worse, and everything gets out of hand. So that's just a snippet of the beginning phase of addressing that kind of dynamic. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.